Part 4. Libra is not one of the animals. It is a tool, a set of scales, in fact, flanked by two M's, perhaps Latin for Mensa, meaning mind. The M's could be the bowls of reflection, that to be judged. Familiar with vertical, your body takes hold of the ascension to afford the judgment of descent. You are standing on a cardinal point while beneath another cardinal point. The Aries mind stands in water, meaning when you are at the center, looking at the horizon, you are looking at the first fire sign, and directly behind you, the first opposite is air. The opposite horizon, meaning the third quarter. Now, where was I? Yes, the Aries mind stands in water, the second cardinal, while anticipating water in Pisces. And before judgment is passed, it imagines action in water in Scorpio. The glyph for Aries is nested in the cleavage of the M. Like Libra between Virgo and Scorpio. What I'm saying is that this M, both for Scorpio and for Libra and for Virgo, are actually a depiction of Aries mentally collecting Libra in its mind. As an astrologer would know, air is a mental phenomenon. The air in Gemini is the first connection. It is the first messenger. And reminding you again, Mars is depicting the circle or the disk of the first quarter. The arrow is quite literally depicting the first quarter. So this would be the horizon, and this would be the vertical pointing into the cardinal point of the beginning of Cancer. To continue. This cannot be a coincidence. The action in the first house continues. The rising dawn illustrates the glyph for Pisces. Light passes through the air. The earth becomes visible, meaning that the symbol for Pisces and the glyph for Jupiter are both discussing and depicting the crescent of the outside world, as well as the crescent of the world you are standing on. Jupiter itself is a depiction of this visual context, rising into the first quarter of day. It continues. Just above the horizon is the glyph for Jupiter. The growth is suggested. The growth it suggests could be the dawn. The glyph for Aquarius could then suggest a terminus of night. To describe this further, this would be the horizon of the first quarter, with Aries down here, Cancer down there, and this terminus would literally be the depiction of Aquarius. This and this would be the symbol for Pisces. Continuing. The sun rises and reveals the connection between action and the ground, between fire and air. Dawn rises into the moist air. The coolness of night is moisture at your feet. Pisces and Capricorn and Scorpio are water signs. It would then follow. The first element is fire. This first house. The four corners rise, arc, and set. Unseen, they travel through unknown lands. They rise again. This is talking about the obvious truth that the sun came from below the horizon, goes through the cycle of the day, and passes through the horizon on the setting and through unknown lands below you, rising again. Your standing body knows where the sun will rise, the height it will achieve, and where it will set. These cardinal points have defined the glyph for Earth. This glyph for Earth. The sun rises and defines the zodiac by achieving its zenith. When the sun sets, the sign in the first house will be opposite the rising. When it is at its zenith, the fourth cardinal will be revealed, rising in the first house, and the sun will rule the fifth house. The bottom of the disc, Leo, is then the sun with a feather in its cap. Sagittarius is the pike of Mars. The reflection is proof. Mars rules the water of Scorpio. The Roman numeral 1, it is a pike and a staff. Like you, the staff can mark, like Aries. Held by the horns, it defines down, meaning like this. When you hold this staff by the horns, it depicts vertical. Standing, it casts a shadow by day, Leo and Capricorn. Measuring the travel by night, Sagittarius. The staff marks the first flame of astrology. It is the rod beneath and between the horns of Aries, the first cardinal point and the four corners of the circle. Now, to review before we move on. This part here about the sun rising and defining the zodiac. When dawn rises, this arc is filled with the night. The stars are visible. At the setting, there is a symbol of the zodiac. There is a constellation on the setting horizon, directly opposite you, 180 degrees opposite of your observation of the dawn. That observation of that constellation can be marked, and when the sun reaches its zenith, you will mark vertical. Now, when the sun reaches the setting, the constellation coming up on the horizon was in water. Now, of course, this was not done to the accuracy of modern astronomy. This was merely a depiction and a collection that would have to be done over multiple nights. But regardless, once the zenith is achieved by the sun and the staff or the rod would be used to find vertical, and you could plant a flag at that point so that you could start measuring the actual zodiac. Constellation that was on the horizon at the setting has now passed below the horizon. The sun is achieving its zenith and approaching the setting. When you measure this constellation and use the vertical staff to track it to the zenith, more constellations will start to come up from the horizon and can be collected so that when the zenith constellation passes to the setting, the constellation that was below you at dawn will finally be revealed, and the sun will have been passed on to the fifth house.